Francisco Lindor is perhaps the most misunderstood player in baseball because despite being a 4-time All-Star, 3-time Silver Slugger, and Platinum Glove winner, his name is not mentioned among the best shortstops in the game. But in reality, his career has actually been on a historic pace ever since he stepped foot in the league and is rightfully on his way into the Hall of Fame. So how did this all start and why is he so misunderstood? When Cleveland selected Lindor's contract from AAA Columbus around the midway point during the 2015 season, they were in the midst of a difficult start at 29-33, 4th place in the American League Central. That's why his call-up was heavily anticipated. After all, he was the 4th-ranked prospect in 2015, only behind star players in Byron Buxton, Chris Bryant, and Carlos Correa, and his impact in the lineup was felt immediately. Hitting in the 2 spot from the time of his big league debut till the rest of the season, he had big moments such as his month of September where he hit .362 with an over 1,000 OPS in his 27 games, helping him win Rookie of the Month as well as giving him solid numbers for the season. In total, he played in 99 games, had 28 extra base hits, an over 300 average, 121 OPS plus, and a 2nd place finish in the Rookie of the Year award. Additionally, when Lindor was at his best in the final 2 months, he helped propel Cleveland from last place in the Central at 48-54 to 33-26 to finish the season. For reference, that would be on pace for 90 wins. So it should be no surprise that after making his debut, no other Cleveland field player came close to his WAR total of 4. That's why there was a lot of buzz surrounding his name, because with the thought of getting him for a full season, Cleveland could be back competing in 2016, and boy did they compete. Backed by another solid season by Lindor, they blew all of their preseason expectations out of the water by making it all the way to the World Series for the first time since 1997. And Lindor was in the thick of the action all year long, managing to feature in 158 games and lead all Cleveland batters in WAR with 5.1, only second to Corey Kluber for the team lead. He seemingly could do it all. With the bat, he coupled his high average with power, posting 48 extra base hits, and defensively there were not many at his level. In terms of outs above average, a stat that takes into account how far the fielder has to go to reach the ball, how much time he has, and how far he is from the base the runner is heading to, he ranked among the best shortstops in the game with an 18-figure, only trailing the Cubs' Addison Russell by 2. And another key defensive stat to look at here is Ultimate Zone Rating, or UZR for short. This is a sabermetric that compares the event which actually happened, that being a hit, out, or error, to data on similarly hit balls in the past to determine how much better or worse the fielder did than the average player. In this stat, Lindor is once again ranked as one of the best defenders in the game, this time 3rd, only behind Brandon Crawford and Freddie Galvis. And as mentioned, he led Cleveland to the World Series, being a valuable asset all throughout the playoffs. In the ALDS against the AL East champions, the Boston Red Sox, he hit a crucial home run in Game 1, helping them win by a narrow scoreline of 5-4. Then, in the ALCS against my beloved Blue Jays, he ripped our hearts out with his game-winning 2-run shot in the bottom of the 6th inning in Game 1. Now, this is unfortunately where his luck ran out as he lost to the Cubs in the winner-take-all Game 7 matchup, but nonetheless, it was an impressive first 2 years in the majors for Cleveland's newest star. In terms of other shortstops, during the 2015 and 2016 season, Lindor ranked 3rd place in terms of batting average at .306, OPS plus at 112, and WAR at 9.1, only trailing some of the game's best, proving that his career was on the right trajectory. And on top of his stellar play, he was proven to be just as elite mentally. Take a listen to what he said following the Game 7 loss. For me, it wasn't a letdown. It was a successful season. We shocked the world. Nobody had us here, and it was fun. I believe in the guys we have. I believe in the chemistry. He would continue to mention, I'm looking forward to 2017. We've got to continue to work hard. I've got to stay humble, hungry, and we'll see what happens next year. This type of maturity out of just a 22-year-old is incredible, proving that he not only had the athletic capability of being one of the game's best shortstops, but also the mental, which can be even more important. From 2017 to 2019, he continued to blossom into a power-hitting shortstop with 30 homers each season, as well as a defensive superstar making highlight reel plays seemingly every week. So because of this, he was rewarded as an All-Star and MVP vote recipient all 3 years, as well as a 2-time Silver Slugger and Gold Glove winner. All of these accolades at just 25 years old, but it was for good reason. When comparing to league-wide production from shortstops between 2017 to 2019, his 103 home runs ranked first. 7 more than second place Trevor Story, and 29 more than third place Paul DeJong. In terms of hits, he was the only player to top 500 at 531, with second place Gene Segura 35 behind him. And finally, in terms of WAR, his 17.7 figure topped the list over Trevor Story and Andrelton Simmons. But the momentum he gained throughout the first 5 seasons of his career stalled a bit in 2020, as he posted the lowest OPS plus of his career at 104. But it was a shortened season and made it tough on a lot of stars, such as Jose Altuve, who had just a 71 OPS plus, and JD Martinez, who had a 79. In reality, the more important matter regarding his 2020 season was that it marked his 6th year in the majors, leaving him to become a free agent following the 2021 season. This meant Lindor and Cleveland's front office engaged in extension talks, but it was clear from the get-go it would be hard for them to reach an agreement, with the front office stating, "It's not because of a lack of desire on our part or on Francisco's part, but more when you look at the economics of baseball and the realities of building championship teams in a small market. It gets really tough." And in the end, the two sides couldn't come together, meaning the club had to trade him to get some value from his departure, and in the end, they decided to send him to the New York Mets, ending his emphatic Guardians career. At the time of Lindor's arrival in the Queens prior to the 2021 season, it was the start of a new era of Mets baseball, as hedge fund billionaire Steve Cohen was entering his first season as majority owner of the club after acquiring it for $2.4 billion that offseason. And when doing so, he stated, "If I don't win a World Series in the next 3 to 5 years, I would consider that slightly disappointing." This promise meant he had to spend, and Lindor was the perfect guy to build a winning culture around. After all, in Cleveland, he was heavily regarded as one of the most likable guys in the clubhouse, and on the field, he was able to lead by example as a premier shortstop. That's why prior to the 2021 season, Cohen felt confident enough to ink him to a 10-year, $341 million contract, making him not only the richest player in Mets franchise history, but also the richest shortstop, period. And being the new $341 million man, he had to perform like it, because New York is not an easy place to struggle. This is of course the Yankees, but even Aaron Judge was booed in 2023 when he, as well as the team, was underperforming late in the season. And this was the case for Lindor, as he had just 4 homers, a 188 average, and a 577 OPS in his first 45 games, prompting boos from the fans, with the first time being on April 28th following the club's 2-1 loss against the Boston Red Sox, something he was not too fond of. After saying this, he went on to reassure fans that he would be back producing, and he kept his word. In his final 79 games of the season, he managed 16 homers, a 252 average, and 822 OPS, numbers emulating his previous career averages. But because of his lackluster start, he finished with 3 WAR, his worst full season mark in his entire career, and I believe this is where a lot of the criticism he gets today comes from, because he made a horrible first impression in New York directly after signing the largest shortstop contract in MLB history. And first impressions are everything, but without the ability to change the past, Lindor used the same mindset he had earlier in his career to be both humble and hungry in order to justify his big extension in his second season with the Mets. This was especially apparent during spring training when a reporter told him he had a chance to hit the reset button, but instead Lindor stated, "I don't look at it that way at all, because hitting the reset button would mean forgetting all the things I learned last season, and I learned a lot." That's why, with all this talk of a comeback, it's fitting that he had one of his best seasons of his career, reaching milestones each month. For example, on May 31st, he was named National League Player of the Week after driving in a run every game. Then, on August 14th, he recorded his 82nd RBI of the season, besting the Mets' previous shortstop record held by Jose Reyes when there were still 47 games left. And finally, on September 15th, after recording his 24th home run, he once again bested the Mets' previous shortstop record holder in Asdrubal Cabrera. And in the end, he helped guide the club to an incredible 101 win campaign, their most since all the way back to their 1986 World Series winning season. And while they weren't able to advance past the wild card, losing to the Padres in 3 games, he showed Queens and the rest of the baseball world what he's capable of. In total, he played in all but 1 game, managing 98 runs scored, 26 homers, and 107 RBIs. For reference, the only players in baseball that season to post at least these figures were Aaron Judge and Paul Goldschmidt. Not bad company at all. And in terms of WAR, he posted the second highest among shortstops at 5.6, only behind Xander Bogaerts, and in the following season, he improved this figure to 6, the second highest mark of his career. But in 2024, like many Mets players, Lindor had a tough start to the season, hitting just .229 with a .699 OPS by the end of May, which meant he was once again receiving immense criticism, with the blame of the team's poor 24-33 record being pushed primarily on his shoulders. However, it was silly to discredit him so soon, especially after he's proved time and time again that he has the ability to turn things around in a moment's notice. And since the calendar flipped to June, he's been on fire, hitting .290 with an over 900 OPS and 21 extra base hits in just 38 games. But despite his stellar play the last couple months, he still seems to be overlooked, and it's been that way his whole Mets career. So let's dive into why this could be the case, and I believe there are a few main reasons why. The first being, we don't value defense. As mentioned earlier in the video, there are a couple key stats to look at. In terms of outs above average, he's only finished below the 99th percentile in baseball twice in his 10-year career, and the 2 times he didn't, he finished in the 90th in 2023 and 98th in 2022. Additionally, his 131 total figure ranks as not only the best among shortstops, but the entire league. And heading back over to Ultimate Zone rating, we can see he tops the list with 62.6, 1.9 ahead of second place Andrelton Simmons, and 30.5 over third place Jose Iglesias. These two defensive stats prove that there aren't many coming close to his level of defensive production at shortstop, which is the most valuable defensive position. And by playing great defense, you are able to back up your pitcher if he makes a mistake and allows a hard hit ball, saving him a base runner and giving him an out instead of a run scoring single. This also helps your pitcher save pitches, which in turn allows him to go deeper into games and keeps the bullpen fresh each night. But I can't lie, these aren't cool numbers to look at. Home runs, OPS, RBIs are typically the stats that get talked about to value every single player, so let's take a look. During his time in Cleveland, we can see that his slash line is far better than what it has been during his time in New York. And from 2017 to 2019, he hit 103 home runs, while he's only posted 77 during his best 3-year spell with the Mets. But there is one problem when looking at stats like this, because it doesn't take into account the juice balls in the late 2010s or league-wide production dropping a considerable amount in the 2020s. So when we look at adjusted stats such as OPS+, we can see that his OPS, while 54 points lower than his time in Cleveland, is actually valued at the exact same when accounting for league-wide production. And in terms of weighted runs created plus, a stat that quantifies run creation and normalizes it so we can compare players who play in different ballparks as well as eras, also has Lindor producing at the same elite quality he had in Cleveland, showing that his bat has not declined, even though it is kind of being perceived that way. And finally, the last reason as to why he is misunderstood, and that being how his huge contract and underwhelming first impression hurt his recognition. This is important because, as mentioned, first impressions are everything. It was the first time we all witnessed him in a Mets uniform, as well as how he would react on the field after his mega extension. And while yes, he did have a terrible year for his standards, posting just 3 WAR, the worst full season mark of his career, it was still above average, and he did this while performing at his worst, which is impressive. For reference, when other star players have down seasons, they aren't anywhere close to his figure. Take Bryce Harper for example. After posting 9.7 WAR in 2015, he didn't top 2 in both 2016 and 2018. And as for Vladimir Guerrero Jr., after posting 6.7 WAR in 2021, he had just 2 in 2023. So if you're telling me when Lindor is at his worst he is still worth 3, I would gladly accept that if he played on my team. And to hammer home just how impressive his career has been, let's take a look at his stats through his age 30 season, because when comparing it to the top shortstops in MLB history, we can uncover how his career is actually on a historic pace. In terms of home runs, he ranks with the 3rd most at 231, only behind Cal Ripken Jr. and Ernie Banks. In isolated power, which is slugging percentage minus batting average, he ranks 5th best at 199, which showcases his elite ability to hit for extra bases. And finally, in terms of WAR, 8th at 46, 1 place higher than Derek Jeter, and only trailing some of the best shortstops in the history of the game. With all this being said, I think it's clear just how impressive his start to his career has truly been, and the lack of praise is strange for a superstar player of his caliber, because in 15 years' time, it's more than likely we will be discussing his name on the Hall of Fame ballot.